Hello, ladies and gentlemen. You're welcome to another episode of the DigitalBassey podcast. My name is Samuel Udobasi. On this episode of the podcast, we will be discussing on a concerning issue that has been prevalent these days, and that is the issue of kidnapping. Kidnapping has become so concerning because in the past, when you hear of kidnapping, you automatically go to the high income earners, the businessmen of this world, the politicians, and those that would readily come to your mind. Oh, someone big has been kidnapped. And then when you hear of the ransom, you would be hearing millions of naira, sometimes even in dollars. But these days, kidnapping has become so random, so much so that you could just hear that the organizer down your street has been kidnapped on his way to a party outside the state or outskirts of the state. What can you do to keep yourself safe, since the modus operandi of the kidnappers now has been not only to target the middle or high income earners, but just any persons can be a target of the kidnappers. One of the things that you need to do is to always conduct, like I would say in my professional field, is conduct a risk assessment. Where are you going to? What's the precedence of the route? What usually happen on that route? Is that route a high risk route? If you have identified such route to be an high risk route, consider the relevance of what you want to go do there. Is it really, really important? Is it possible that you conduct whatever you want to do there via other alternative means rather than you going there physically? You know, the pandemic has opened our eyes now to the fact that several meetings and other things that you ordinarily would want to be physically present for can be done remotely. There are avenues like Zoom calls, video calls on the internet that you can make use of to avoid physically being in a place, to avoid the danger of traveling on the road, which could lead to kidnap. Another thing that you could do, I think I've made some notes here. Another thing you could do is to explore other alternative means of transport. Okay, if it's really, really important that you have to make a trip to get to a particular point, maybe from point A to point B. Okay, for example, let's say you're going to Abuja, for example, and there are notorious spots on the roads that you've had kidnappers very rampant in such place. Why not then look for alternative means of getting to Abuja, either via a train or you go through the air, because those two are still the safest means of avoiding kidnapping so far. We've never heard of any incident of kidnapping on the train. Neither have we heard of any incidents of kidnapping via the airplane. So look out for alternative means of transportation and use that. Though this third point is not usually dependent on you if you're not the owner of the vehicle, but it's also very important that if you're not the person who owns the vehicle that you'll be traveling with, be sure that the vehicle is mechanically fit to go on such trip. When you get to the garage where you're to board the bus, look out for the best bus to board. Listen to the sound of the vehicle. Even pay attention to the person that is going to be driving you. Make sure that your vehicle is properly checked if you'll be the one driving it. Make sure that the mechanical elements of the vehicles are sound, so that when you get to the road, you don't experience any vehicle failure, which would then predispose you to dangers on the road. Because imagine you going on the road because you failed to inspect your tires, and then your tires, 2 or 3 tires give way on the road, and you only have one spare tire. Some persons don't even have spare tires at all, and that would make you become trapped sometimes in the middle of nowhere, and then you would just be, putting yourself at risk of being kidnapped. So it is very, very important that you check your vehicle before you go on such trip. Another important point you need to take note of is to avoid night travel. Most, about 70-80% of the kidnapping cases that have been reported usually happen in the evening and at the night time. So if you've checked other areas that I've mentioned prior, and you can't see anyone that can fit into the measures that you can take to avoid kidnapping, just make sure that you ply the interstate road, because that is where most of these kidnapping cases occur. Make sure that you ply this road in the daytime when other vehicles are also on the road, and make sure that you use frequently traveled routes. Don't say, oh, okay, I know this old road, that is way more faster than these other routes, and then that old route happens to be a lone road where so many vehicles are not taking. That is you exposing yourself to the risks of being kidnapped. This other one is very important for people who drive their own personal cars. Because again, most of the kidnapping cases usually occur with people who drive their own personal cars. So install vehicle trackers on your vehicle. That's very, very important. Install vehicle trackers on your vehicle, and make sure that your mobile phone is very handy while I am not saying that you always hold your mobile phone, or text while driving, or become distracted by the use of your mobile phone. That's not what I mean. But I mean that make your mobile phone accessible, make it handy, and always ensure that there is airtime on your mobile phone when you're traveling. Try as much as possible to have more than one line when you are going on a long trip, because sometimes on our road we realize that certain network would not have internet access, or GSM network. So it is very important that you have at least two of the Nigerian telecom lines, so that you will be able to access or make calls in the event of an emergency. All of this and many other things that you could also do to ensure that you keep yourself safe and avoid being kidnapped in this season, where kidnapping is very, very high. Thank you very much for staying by and listening to this short episode of DigitalBassey podcast. See you next week or next time, as the case may be. Bye bye.